Hello you guys, welcome to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a video.
You certainly must have had some conversations with Harry about it and have your own suspicions as to why they didn't want to make Archie a prince. What are those thoughts? Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of his race?
All around the same time. So we had in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title. And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
Okay, now this is key because she says in tandem, like right after another, in tandem, we were having all of these conversations about him getting a title, his security, and then also questions and concerns about how dark his skin might be. But if you listen very carefully, she wasn't having these questions or discussions with the royals. Harry told her all of this information. So Harry is telling her that the royals spoke about the security and the title, and then they had questions and concerns about how dark his skin might be, as if it all happened like in tandem to each other, because that's what she says. So she is answering this question, I believe, I still need to confirm, after Oprah asks her, is this about race? It sounds like she's trying to piece together it being about race. Because she's saying in tandem, there are these questions and comments about the security, the title, how dark is his skin going to be? Would that lead her to believe it's about race if that question was asked at the latter? It doesn't matter, because if it was before or after, she is implying that the color of his skin, if it's too dark, it's going to be contingent on whether or not he's going to get a title, if there's security. Like, she's trying to piece it together about race. You don't have to actually come out and say they're being racist to imply or to suggest that someone is being racist. That's a bunch of malarkey right there. You just trying to take people for fools. If you think because you didn't say the word racist, you weren't being racist. Get out of here. That don't even make no sense. Let's go back to what Piers Morgan said on his show, because he says at the time when all of this happened, because he didn't believe her, Sharon Osbourne defended Piers Morgan. She lost her job over this. Piers Morgan lost his job over this because they didn't believe the accusations that Meghan was saying. And so now you mean to tell me they have lost their jobs around not believing these racist claims, and now Harry and Meghan are going to come out and say, oh, it wasn't about race? Or at least Harry is. It wasn't race? Oh, no.
In the Oprah interview, you accuse members of your family of racism. You don't even...
Well, the British press said that.
Right.
Did Meghan ever mention they're racist?
She said there were troubling comments about
Archie's
skin
color. There was concern about his skin color.
Right. Wouldn't you describe that as essentially racist?
I wouldn't.
It wasn't right? Oh, no. It was unconscious bias. Well, excuse me, but racism and unconscious bias is the same thing. We're going to talk about that in a second. So how can you even sit here and say it wasn't about race when we know Meghan contacted the producers of the show Piers was on to complain about him saying he didn't believe her? So if you're complaining about him not believing you, then of course, then what you were talking about must have been what he said he didn't believe. That's the issues around race. And now they're trying to walk it back, because you know why they're trying to walk it back? I'll tell you why. Because it got too hot in the kitchen for them. Yes, it got too hot. So the minute they brought up these racist claims, they saw people coming from every direction asking them who was the racist. You have a duty. If someone's calling you racist, you have a duty and a responsibility to say who it is, because that's just not right. But because they don't want to call out somebody by name as being racist, because they know this is going to be very damaging for that person. They even said it in the interview. Because they don't want to have to be pressured into saying who that person was, now they're changing the narrative to it wasn't racism, it was just unconscious bias. My friends, this couple, they are a sham and a fraud. They're liars, and they're very just despicable in their behavior. Who does that? Who leads people to believe that this was about racism? The way you worded the question, the way you worded your answer about connecting it with security and with the titles, and then telling this story about the dark colorness of the skin's child. You're wanting people to look at it as being about race. Why would you try to say these things happened in tandem? They're making people believe this for the last couple of years, and now they're going to say it wasn't about race. You're liars. You're frauds. You're despicable, because there are people that suffer from racism. And for you to play around with something like this as if, we didn't mean it like that. That wasn't about race. You know, that makes you just look like you're just toying around with things to get people all riled up, because you don't take anything seriously. It's all a game to you. You're toying around with people's careers, with people's emotions, with people that actually suffer from real racism. And now you're saying it was unconscious bias, which is not even any better, because it is the same thing. So Harry and Meghan don't want to have to put their feet to the fire. They don't want to have to say who the racist person was. From what I hear, from what Piers Morgan is saying, it's not even in Harry's book. And even Harry said he's not going to talk about it. Why are you not going to talk about it? If it's unconscious bias, at least then you can kind of educate people about, well, you know, when you say things like that, it kind of implies or seems like you might be a little racist. You shouldn't do that. No, that's not how they wanted to approach it. They wanted to approach this as something being very devastating and cruel to them. I mean, look at Meghan when she says it. Just watch how she says it.
And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
She says it with an emotion as if she is the victim of racism. As if something very horrible has just happened to her because this was said within the royal family. The other thing that is very obvious to us all is let's just look at the definitions of racism and unconscious bias, okay? Racism, prejudice, discrimination, or an antagonism by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. We know what racism is. That's the definition. But what does it say about unconscious bias? Okay, let's take a look. Unconscious favoritism toward or prejudice against people of a particular ethnicity, gender, or social group that influences one's actions or perceptions. We know there is unconscious bias that goes into hiring. So this is a form of racism, as if you are consciously aware that you're being racist or you're not. So for example, let's say said hiring manager at a company has only seen Black people as unemployed, lazy, like they have in their mindset certain images of black people because that's what they've been fed, maybe through the media. They don't know anybody that is a hardworking person that's of color. They have been fed these stereotypes and that's all they know. And so they start to perceive the stereotypes as being true. So when someone maybe comes into a job that's black, that has great skills and it would be a great candidate for a job, well, the hiring manager may think unconsciously that perhaps this black candidate might not be good for this job because of what they've perceived unconsciously, or perhaps they are saying something out of ignorance. And it could be perceived that they just didn't really know any better. They're saying things that are racist, but they're saying it without the knowledge that it would be considered racist to someone else. And I'll give you an example of this one. This is a true story, you guys. So there's this lady that was in a nursing home, an old white lady in a nursing home, and she's like really old. So, you know, she grew up in a completely different time, a woman really old, and she's in a hospital, and she says to one of her relatives in the room, "Oh, go get that N-word girl to come over here and bring me my food," like in a real nice way, but called her the N-word in the process. Now, this woman could have said that in a way that was very derogatory, or like she was completely being racist. Or do you think perhaps maybe she said it just because she grew up, you know, as a person isolated in the countryside, not really cultured, and people have always referred to black people as the N-word and they don't see it as a bad thing. And so when she was actually in the hospital with civilized folk and she said something like that, do you think maybe she said it because she was being racist or because she just didn't know any better? That's one of those things where you like, I don't know about you. I don't know. Like, okay, I can maybe give you a pass because you're so old or something, you know. So unconsciously, sometimes people can do things because of how they've seen the world, and they may be perceived or they may perceive things as being a certain way because of their life experiences. And then when they go to do something, they're doing it based on their life experiences. And now it's looking like it's really racist. So however you want to put it, unconscious bias, racism, these are really the same thing. And especially if you're saying your family said this, Harry, and you told Meghan, then wouldn't this be a great opportunity to educate your family about how that would sound, rather than being all secretive about it? Like, well, I'm not going to say who said it. Oh no, that's a bad thing. You know, it's terrible. It'd be very damaging to them. You know, so now they're trying to walk back something that you really just can't walk back. Because we know what you were trying to say. You've implied it without even saying the word racist. Just because you didn't say the word racist doesn't mean you weren't trying to make people believe that they were behaving in a racist way. Going on to the fact that they've received awards. Let's just look at what they got for the NAACP, okay? So Harry and Meghan, they received a Distinguished President's Award at the ceremony at the NAACP. They received this award, which was a special achievement in distinguished public service. And other people that have received that award are people like Jay-Z, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, Rihanna, Muhammad Ali, LeBron James, like all these black people. Then you got Harry, the Prince of England, standing there, who has previously worn a Nazi uniform, getting this distinguished honor. Really? And then Meghan says this at the award. She says, "In the months that followed, as my husband and I spoke with the civil rights community, we committed ourselves and our organization who were advancing racial justice and progress." So here yet again, she's trying to take the civil rights of people who are marginalized, and she is trying to highlight it, because she herself has been able to break away from something that was considered racist. This is all a part of her playbook to have things around racism. Do you think it's a coincidence that she said this during the NAACP speech? She's trying to bring race into it. at this moment, just as she did when she spoke to Oprah. It's all the same game. So you cannot come out now and say it's not about race or call it unconscious bias. And people that took up for this couple, Oprah and Gayle, and the countless other people, the Sussex Squad people, you should have mud in your face right now. Because all along how you're talking about the royal family, it's being racist towards them, and you're using that clip about what Meghan said about the skin color of the child, when all along when she was saying it, she wasn't really saying that the royals were racist. She has these people defending her on a lie. So you should feel really stupid right now. You should feel really upset and angry that this woman has misled or tried to mislead the world around a false narrative, because that's what she was implying. She didn't have to say the word racist to say that they were being or acting racist towards her. What are you talking about? You don't have to use the word. There are people that are racist that do things all the time without having to say that they're the word racist. That doesn't make you the act of racism an act of racism because someone identified it with the word racism. It's something that happens, and that you don't have to use the word racism for it to mean that it's racism. That's stupid. And then they go on to say it's a true honor to be recognized by President Derek Johnson and the NAACP, whose efforts to propel racial justice and civil rights are as a virtue today as they were nearly 115 years ago, Meghan and Harry said in a joint statement on Thursday. So if you're saying these things that are coming from a civil rights organization, then you're doing something around civil rights for you to be honored for this. Now, we know also the RFK awards, they were given because of what they did around leaving a royal institution. Let's look at why they got that award. So they got this prestigious award from the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Award for fighting racial injustice, but the move sparked criticism. So this is what Kerry Kennedy said why she gave them or nominated them for this award. She said, they went to the oldest institution in UK history and told them what they were doing was wrong, that they couldn't have structural racism within the institution, that they could not maintain a misunderstanding about mental health. She went on to say that they knew that if they did this, there would be consequences and that they would be ostracized, that they would lose their family, their position within the structure, and that people would blame them for it. They have done it anyway because they believe that they couldn't live with themselves if they didn't question this authority. I think that they have been heroic in taking this step. She says that they embody the type of moral courage that my father once called the one essential vital quality for those who seek to change a world that yields most painfully to change. She added they took a heroic stand against structural racism within the institution of the monarchy. So they got an award because of how they stood up to racism within the royal family. And now Harry is saying this.
In the Oprah interview, you accuse members of your family of racism. You don't even...
The British press said that.
Right.
Did Meghan ever mention that they're racist?
She said there were troubling comments about
There was
Archie's skin
concern
color.
about his skin color.
Right. Wouldn't you describe that as essentially racist?
I wouldn't.
Oh, no. They weren't racist. No. If they weren't racist, then you should have refused that award. Why did you accept the award? Because you're hypocrites. You want people to believe you did something heroic, but you didn't. You left for reasons that were selfish. You did what you did to make money, and you didn't do it for the reasons that people are saying you did it for. And now people wanting to hold your feet to the fire about who the racist person was, and now you can't stand the heat. You can't stand the pressure of what you have done. You know the consequences of you calling the royal family racist is going to be very, very severe for you. And so now you're trying to walk it back. We're going to walk it back. Sorry, you can't walk it back. You did it. Accept it, okay? Accept what you did. All the people that stuck up for them, have mud in their faces right now because you stood up for a bunch of liars. All the Queen said was their recollections may vary. And wasn't she right? They have varied tremendously.
Hold up.
There's several conversations.
There's a conversation with you,
with Harry,
about.
Okay, you see how she said there was a conversation with Harry? There was a conversation with Harry. But before, she said there were conversations in tandem around title, security, and how dark his skin could be. But that didn't happen at the same time. These were separate conversations. These were just things that were happening at different times. But she said in tandem, these are things that were happening one after another. But she wanted to imply that they were all happening at the same time. And then this is the kicker right here. This right here is the kicker. Listen to this.
It was really hard to be able to see those as compartmentalized
They were
conversations.
concerned that if he were too brown, that would be a problem. Are you saying that?
I wasn't able to follow up with why, but if that's the assumption you're making, I think that feels like a pretty safe one.
So she right there is confirming that it's about racism. Let's hear it again, folks.
See those as compartmentalized
They were
conversations.
concerned that if he were too brown, that would be a problem. Are you saying that?
If he were too brown, that would be a problem. And then Meghan says,
I wasn't able to follow up with why, but if that's the assumption you're making, I think that feels like a pretty safe one.
oh, she wasn't there, but Oprah, you know what? If you're saying it, that feels safe to me. Yeah, let's choose that for 100. What? Oh, okay. Let me just hear that one more time. Let's just hear that one more time.
Able to follow up with why, but if that's the assumption you're making, I think that feels like a pretty safe one.
Oh, that feels like a pretty safe one? Oh, it seems pretty safe to you? Yeah, we're going to go with that one. Racism for 100, please. You can't make it up. You can't make it up.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry allege that members of the royal family were racist when it came to their baby's skin in Oprah's tell-all interview.
Everybody was saying it. Everybody was reporting that this was about race. Why didn't you put out a statement? Why didn't you say it wasn't about race? Or I slipped and fell and hit my head. I don't know what I said that day to Oprah. Why didn't you say something? You didn't. You said nothing.